Going on, Noles Nation? CJ Wilson here with DoakTalk. I am your host. I hope you guys aren't getting tired of these videos and posting and things like that, because typically whenever we post these videos, there's some good news that comes behind it. And we have some more good news for you guys for sure with this one, as FSU lands a speedy transfer wide receiver out of the SEC and Squirrel White. Big time gift from Mike Norvell and staff. Gus Malzahn, offensive coordinator, and of course, can't forget FSU's newly acquired receiver coach in Ice Harris for landing the commitment for a very, very productive receiver out of the transfer portal in Squirrel White. FSU lands the commitment of Squirrel over the University of North Carolina and the University of Oregon. Big time gift for FSU, as they wanted a lot of production, proven talent within the receiver room. Just speaking about Squirrel White himself, that's a little bit of tongue twister if I be completely honest. But he's had 131 within his 3-year career at Tennessee, 131 catches, 1,665 receiving yards, and 6 touchdowns. I'll repeat that one more time. 131 catches, 1,665 receiving yards in 3 years at Tennessee. Averages 12.7 yards per catch. Very explosive, dynamic guy when the ball is touching his hand. Big time playmaker. Just want to give you a kind of breakdown on Squirrel and how productive he's been at Tennessee. His true freshman year, he came out of the gate and played a lot of football for Tennessee. Had 30 catches, 481 yards, and 2 touchdowns. His sophomore year was his breakout year. Had a phenomenal sophomore year. 67 catches, 803 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Tennessee. His junior year, which was this year, he only had 34 catches, 381 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But he was battling a lot of injuries throughout the season that kind of derailed him from being the #1 target for Tennessee. Ended up in the transfer portal, wanted more opportunities, a bigger role, so to speak, with all of his talents, and then landed at FSU. So a really big get for Mike Norvell and staff. Like I said, this guy is productive as hell. You're talking about his sophomore year, 67 catches, 800 yards in the SEC. You definitely want to sign up for that type of talent. Standing at about 5'10", 170 pounds. Like I stated, he's very explosive. He's shifty. You put the ball in his hands, he can do something with it. He's a deep threat. Fast, you take the top off the defense. Something that FSU needs for this 2025 version of the receiver room. As you guys know, FSU landed one of the biggest commitments in the transfer portal thus far for FSU, and Deuce Robinson, the transfer receiver from USC. Deuce is standing around 6'6", 225 pounds. You also bring in Jordan Scott, who's the #1 JUCO wide receiver. He's 6'7", right? And then you, from the high school ranks, they ended up adding Mallory out of Connecticut and Gesley out of Jacksonville. Both of those guys sit at 6'5" and 6'4". So you need this type of diversity as far as within your receiver room. You have the tall trees, you have the explosive, shifty, take the top off the defense, big play threat, and Squirrel White. Want to give a shout out to Thomas Castellano. Did a hell of a job of recruiting Squirrel as well. Those two had conversations, exchanged numbers and things like that. And also Deuce Robinson. Those two had conversations as well about trying to, land Squirrel White, my mistake, in Tallahassee along with Deuce Robinson. So you add those two with the quarterback, Thomas Castellano, it's going to be pretty interesting within the pass game. And just to be quite frank, those guys, well, not Squirrel himself, but Thomas Castellano, Deuce Robinson, and a couple of the newcomers that FSU has recruited from the transfer portal, JUCO, and the high school ranks. Some of the guys that are currently on campus now, they've been throwing with Thomas Castellano. Jordan Scott as well. He's been a part of that as part of those throwing sessions. My apologies as well. So those guys are trying to get accustomed to Tallahassee and not wasting any time and getting after it and getting familiar with each other and building that camaraderie. So the 2025, not even necessarily 2025 season, just going to spring practice, it could be a kind of seamless and easy transition as far as not really getting familiar with each other, because that's already been done in the summer workouts leading to spring practice. But just speaking about, like I said, Squirrel White himself, a big time get for FSU, explosive playmaker, ended up landing him over the University of North Carolina and Oregon. I like it. Really shifty and explosive. So FSU lands a playmaker within the transfer portal as far as receiver, something they wanted very badly. We're talking about the playmaker with proven production. 131 catches in 3 years, man. What more do you want? 1,600 receiving yards within that time span. So I really feel like, as far as from a production standpoint, Squirrel will fit right in, make a lot of plays for FSU. to be completely honest with you, he's probably the best receiver on paper that we have coming in. Of course, talent-wise and things like that, that's a different story. But the best receiver we have on paper probably coming into the 2025 season. So we'll see how Mike Norvell and those guys can factor in, getting him the ball and being creative. And that's something he said stood out during this visit as well, as far as his communication with Mike Norvell and just the pitch they've been selling to him as far as being a playmaker, being creative in the offense. He liked what he saw a lot in regards to the presentation FSU gave to him. So we'll see how things play out. Like I said, this past year, his junior year, was supposed to be one of the big years for Squirrel, but ended up being hampered by injuries. Still had solid production with 34 catches, 381 yards. So the offense is looking pretty interesting as far as the receiver room. I think it's day and night better than it was last year for FSU. And hopefully you can have some guys that are still on the roster that can take the next step and develop and make an impact for FSU for this 2025 season. To name a few, Wayne McCoy and Hakeem Williams. I know a lot of people have mixed reviews and mixed opinions about Hakeem Williams, but I do want to see how this receiver room as a whole translates or produce, develop, whatever word you want to use, moving forward with Ice Harris as receiver coach as we move on for Ron Dugan. So I want to see what this receiver room looks like post Ron Dugan's, and also with a better offensive line, because that's the main issue for FSU, right? The main issue this past season was the offensive line play. Yes, the quarterback play was bad. Yes, the receivers wasn't good and dropped a lot of passes. Running backs were elite, but everything starts up front within the trenches, and the offensive line was pretty much all-time bad. So that has been band-aided a little bit with Coach Herb Hand. We'll see how he coaches up the guys that he brought in. And then you add Thomas Castellano, who can extend plays, move out of the pocket, something that our quarterbacks this past year really didn't have the luxury of doing in regards to extending plays. So you add those factors in, I really think the receiver room is going to be a lot better than it was for the 2024 season. And then you add the ultra production, the ultra skill set that we have. And that's, a Squirrel White, big-time playmaker, speedy guy from Tennessee. Deuce Robinson, hell of an athlete at 6'6", can do some things that you don't really see to be normal at that size. And the other guys we brought in with a lot of production as well. I'm really excited about the JUCO receiver, Jordan Scott, too, 6'7". So we have size, we have speed, we have how you want it, hard or soft, we have it all. So make sure you guys tap in with DoakTalk. I'm pretty sure we have a lot more coming to you from this transfer portal December window for FSU as we try to gear up and get ready for spring practice. Well, tour duty first, spring winter workouts, tour duty, and then spring practice. So go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, go ahead and tap in with the DoakTalk community. Go Noles.